Hey everybody, Matt here. This is going to be another one of my comparison videos. I did one of these once before. This is obviously going to be comparing these two nice looking pistols we've got here. This is the Sig and the Glock. Now, this is not going to be a model specific comparison. This is going to be just in general Glocks versus Sigs. Now obviously what we have here is we have a Glock 17 and a Sig P228. They are both 9mm pistols, but that's pretty much the only thing they have in common. Now, let's just go over the differences here real quick, because we're not comparing apples to apples here, but these do happen to be pistols that a lot of people who are out looking for a pistol may go, do I want a Glock, do I want a Sig? They are two pistols that get compared a lot, regardless of the fact that they really are not in the same class. Okay, they're two very different types of pistols. They do get compared a lot, especially here on YouTube. So let's do a quick comparison of them. The main differences on these two pistols is obviously you're talking a polymer framed striker fired pistol compared to an alloy framed hammer fired pistol. Okay, those are two very different types of pistols. They operate differently. They look different. They're made out of different materials. I mean, they are very different pistols. But for the purposes of this discussion, we are going to compare them anyway. Let's start with size and weight. Now, if you were talking full size to full size, technically the P228 is a compact model. It is, as you can tell here, not a whole lot smaller than a full-size Glock, but still technically it's a compact model. If you were comparing full size to full size, they would be almost the same length and height. Where they would differ is going to be in width. The Glock is a lot thinner, okay, than almost any Sig out there. Sigs are notoriously thicker pistols, especially right here in the grip. Okay, and as far as weight goes, they're going to differ because the Sig is an alloy framed pistol, so it's going to weigh more than the polymer framed Glock is going to weigh. That's just how it works. So when it comes to size and weight, I got to give it to the Glock. I do want to point out here that I'm not saying one gun is better than the other. These are two very different guns, both of which I love to death. They're both great guns, hopefully at the end of this I'll have helped somebody make a decision on whether or not they want one over the other. Next, let's go with looks. This is a kind of a simple thing. I don't want to go too much into it. The Sig is a very good looking pistol. Okay, it's one of the best looking pistols on the market. Most people would agree with that. It's a very classic design. It looks beautiful. A lot was obviously put into how it looks, how it feels in the hand. It's just, in general, it's a great looking pistol. Probably the best looking pistol in the world would be a 1911. Next up is going to be a Sig. I mean, that's just kind of how it works out. Glock, on the other hand, as I've stated in a previous video or two or three, I don't know how many times I've said this, but it's a utilitarian tool. It was designed and made to be a military sidearm. Okay, that's what it was designed to be. Not a lot was put into how it looked. Okay, now its design and its look has become very popular with a lot of people, and there are a lot of people out there who think this is just a beautiful gun, and it can be. I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But overall, Sig's going to be a better looking pistol for you. As far as ergonomics go, we're going to go right back to what we were just talking about. This was designed to be, the Glock, a military sidearm. Not a lot was put into its design as far as comfort goes. Okay, it also has the European style grip, which is going to be a European angle with the European palm swell down here. A lot of people over here on this side of the pond don't like that too much. Personally, I don't think it matters that much. Some people say it makes you shoot high. If you practice with it, it doesn't take very long after running one mag through it, and you're shooting fine. I don't find it as big a deal as a lot of people do, but some people have a real problem with that grip angle. Obviously, a lot of improvements have been made to the Glock between Gen 1 and Gen 4. This particular model is a Gen 3, so the improvements you have here between Gen 1 and Gen 3 are going to be better grip on the back and front, on the sides and finger grooves, and a little bit better under the trigger guard right here as far as for your finger here. Obviously, on the Gen 4s, you have the swappable back straps, which a lot of people like. It makes a difference depending on what size your hands are. That's obviously a big step in ergonomics. However, the Sig is just inherently much more ergonomic. It does have a thicker grip, but it feels better in the hand. It's more comfortable. Just in general, ergonomics-wise, it's a little bit better fit for most people. Not to say there aren't people out there who don't like the Glock better for that. I'm sure there are people out there like that, but in general, the Sig was designed a little more ergonomically. Let's talk about magazines. I'm not going to safety check these because I know they're both loaded. As far as magazines go, obviously we're dealing with a compact versus a full size. Now that is also something to point out, that even on the full size model, a Glock still holds more rounds than a Sig does. I believe the Sig's full size model is 15 rounds. I may be off on that, but on the 226, I can't remember exactly, but I believe the Glock holds more rounds. Just the magazine in general, though. Obviously you have your standard Glock. This is a polymer coated with a steel lining, very impact resistant, drop resistant, dent resistant, scratch resistant, great magazine. Sig's magazines are made primarily by Metgar, just a basic blue steel magazine, witness holes on the sides as opposed to on the back. With the Glock, overall Glock, you guys know this, I love Glock magazines. They're great, they're reliable, they're durable. I wish everybody made their mags like these. They're awesome, I love them. So definitely point to Glock there for the magazines. As far as the triggers go, we've talked about this in a past video or two. The Glock trigger is a two-piece trigger. It's got a trigger safety as opposed to a manual thumb safety or anything like that. Now the Sig doesn't have a manual safety, but I'll show you how its safety works as well. What the Glock here has is this little tongue sticking out of the middle of your trigger system, so unless your finger's actually on it, it won't go bang. If you see I push the side of the trigger, nothing happens. I push my finger on the trigger, it goes off. Now Glock's trigger is, in my opinion, as I've said before, kind of a spongy trigger. Okay, a lot of play, a lot of take up, and very, very spongy, sticky kind of trigger with a slightly spongy break. Now, where Glock's trigger shines is here. When you just let out to the reset, which is right there, very short reset on the Glock trigger, it is a very clean break. Okay, there we go. Short reset, clean break. That to me is where Glock's trigger shines, okay? If you like to do double taps, follow-up shots, things like that at the range, and you're used to only letting your trigger out to the reset, Glock's trigger is fantastic for that. I love it for that. If you, however, let your trigger all the way out, you're gonna get more of a spongy trigger with a spongier break every time. That's just how the Glock trigger is. There are some modifications you can do to it, but what we're talking about here is how these guns come stock. So, all right, so let's go to the Sig now. The trigger on this is obviously much different. Okay, what we're talking about here is this has got a double action, single action trigger, which is different than the striker fired trigger on the Glock. So it is a very different trigger, but we're going to go ahead and compare them anyway. Okay, so what we have here is a trigger pull of 12 pounds in double action. Okay, and in single action, you're going to have a trigger pull of right at around 4 pounds, I believe. Very light trigger, and it is noticeably lighter than the Glocks. The Glock is going to come in right at about 5.5 pounds. Now, like I said, we are talking stock, out of the box, straight from the factory. You can make adjustments to these triggers, but this is how it goes. As far as let's compare to the Glock, let's talk about our reset and our break, okay? First of all, you do have take up just like you do on the Glock, okay? The difference is that on the Sig, it is not spongy like it does on the Glock. And when not gone out to the reset, the break is very clean. Now, let's just set it out to the reset, which is right there. Now, it does have a much longer, probably about twice the reset length of the Glock, okay? So it is a longer reset, but it still remains nice, crisp, smooth trigger, okay? It is a much lighter trigger, but it is a much longer reset. So, once again, if you do a lot of double taps, a lot of follow-up shots, and you only let your trigger out to the reset, Glock is, in general, a better trigger. Overall, though, Sig probably has a better trigger than the Glock, just for, a roundabout, all-around shooting style for just about anybody. Overall, Sig's going to have it up on that. As far as accessories go, let's jump into accessories and compare these two. Glock's been around for 30 years. It has more accessories than any gun out there, with the exception of the 1911. Sig does have some accessories out there, grips and things like that. You can obviously change parts and barrels and things like that, depending on what you want to do to it. But overall, you're not going to find as many accessories for any gun out there outside of a 1911 as you can find for the Glock. So, that's going to wrap it up. That's my comparison between these two guns. I am going to probably do a follow-up on this and do an accuracy range test on these two pistols to kind of give you guys an idea of which pistol is more accurate. I can tell you in my experience that between these two pistols, even though the Sig has a shorter barrel and the Glock's a little bit longer barrel, the Sig for me is a little bit more accurate. But then again, you know, it doesn't have that reliable and durable reputation that Glock does. So you have to take that in consideration. I mean, that is the essence of a Glock, is reliability and durability. That's what they were designed for, and that's what they do very, very well. So it is a big, big, big plus for Glock, in my opinion. For anybody out there trying to go over and debate over which of these two pistols they might be interested in. So anyway, that's going to be it. I'm going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.